Hello, everybody. It's Sarah Oblak Spiker here, and today I have such a joy to welcome Maithilee Samant. And Maithilee, when you and I first connected a few weeks ago, it was such an easy conversation about so many different things, and there are so many things we bond over in our shared experiences that we have. I am so excited about this conversation. Full disclosure, I have no idea where it's going to go, but I know it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me here. I look forward to talking to you. As you said, we had a lot of fun just chatting. So, yeah, this would be a fun conversation. That's what I'm hoping, and anticipating.
So, first, greetings from New York to sunny California. Where are you right now? What's going on in your life? What are you celebrating?
Yeah, so, well, right now I'm in sunny California, right, very close to Silicon Valley. And it's fun. Um, you know, right now what's going on, a lot of things are going on. So my days are very busy, with a lot of some technical assignments to work on, some emotional assignments in terms of talking to my coaching clients, and a lot of work. But then at the same time, it's a fun work. I'm enjoying it, so that's a good thing. And then of course there's family, and enjoying my daughter. She's having her junior prom this weekend. So that's something. It's kind of what we're celebrating. And of course this is COVID situation, so there is always that worry. And I'm from India, and I'm getting a lot of really shocking and saddening news every single day. um, I'm happy that I could get my mom here to visit, and I can keep her here until the storm passes. But it's still heartbreaking. And the thing is, any COVID anywhere, anywhere in this globe is a problem. It's problem for everyone. It's not that okay, it's India's problem or it's US's or Italy's problem. It's not like that,
Yeah.
because the world is connected. And it's just matter of time when the variants make their way to us. So I think, as a it's a kind of a global crisis, uh, with an opportunity for all of us, like all humans, to come together, unite against this common enemy, and do something. So yeah, so that's on the back of my mind lately.
Yeah. Let's dive right in. I don't think you and I have a bone for small talk and chit chat. We go right into the essence of things. Right before pressing record button, we were discussing, the climate change, and you made some amusing parallels between, the dinosaurs and now burning the fuels and making the atmosphere hot. Last year, you were watching how California kept burning from your own home, and you had to just surrender and have faith that everything was going to be okay. And with pandemic, there's the
Oh
same thing.
yeah.
Just having faith. It's the invisible enemy. There's nothing as an individual we can do about it. But when we step together as a society, we might have some influence. So I would love to dive deeper just into conversation of faith. How do you define faith? How do you cultivate it? And has that changed over the course of your life, also in different cultures, comparing
Mm.
Indian culture and the Western US culture?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing is, it's like, uh, I grew up. I was born and grew up in India, but in a very atheist family. Both of my parents were and are atheist, and a very science-minded, very mathematics. Both of them had degrees in mathematics, and in, like, my father was PhD in engineering. So it was all about books, rationality, and everything like that. And of course, but it is still in India. So I had my grandparents who were kind of not atheists. They were not too religious, but they did practice some rituals, and there was that whole concept of, if you live in India, you will get some, uh, you'll be imparted by some spirituality on you anyways. So there was that. But it was always for me when I was growing up that, uh, you have to be rational, you have to see the connection, the causality, this, that, and the other. And it actually makes all sense, and it actually takes you to a certain level of, gives you certain level of control, and at least sense of control. But then it comes to points like this in life, right, where, uh, yes, like in, say, a pandemic. Now, yeah, we actually did fairly good in this pandemic, considering, like, last, I mean, we didn't have 100 years, we didn't have pandemic. That's a great thing. Before that, there were many of such. Of course, they were localized, fairly localized, but still, like, the pandemic, the flu pandemic in, like, 100 years back, did went through around the globe, maybe slowly, but it did. And it did take its toll. But then 100 years we had fairly happy existence. Well, we had AIDS and all, but I think they were manageable in certain extent. This is the one virus which is like spreading like crazy. So it has brought us to knees, even if it is not extremely fatal. And we could see how science is trying to catch up, but that's the nature of science, right? You have to observe and make observation, create some conclusion, predict, and come with, experiment, look at the results, experiment and look at the results. But that is all good. But what about subjectively, when you're feeling the, uh, pandemic emotionally,
Yeah.
like when you don't know whether you are going to be that 2% statistics or not, you
Yeah.
know and that's where, faith comes in, where you have to calm yourself and still function when there is this chaos, and there is this uncertainty, and there is, um, nothing that you can say you can hold on to as the rock. This is gonna, take me through. And and then people do it in different ways. Some people have their religious faiths, they can go to their temples or churches, mosques, and pray, and that kind of just calms the mind. So I think the faith, in a sense, is a calmer mind which stays in now. And 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 then, how what is your mechanism to get there, you
Mm-hmm.
know so everybody has their own mechanism. Uh, some people go to, like we said, religious places. Some people meditate and get to that calm space. Some people even rationalize and get to that calm space, where we say, okay, we can't do anything, so let's just, the most rational course of action is to calm down, and you can calm yourself down as well that way. So there is that is the fate to me, to say, to stay calm in midst of the, uncertainty, with one of those two things. One is, the in future things will be better. That's one belief. And the second one is, the things are good now, let's stay focused. So both are the flavors of the kind of beliefs that you get when you have faith.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think? What's your thoughts on this one?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was born and raised in Europe, in Slovenia. And in our household, I could also say atheist was the umbrella. Um, and from the young age, I noticed the other side of grandparents. My family was, I mean, my home was multi-generational home. So grandparents on that end were not spiritual, not religious by any definition. Although looking back now, I was like, there was more to it than what I understood back then. The other set of grandparents, extremely religious, Roman Catholic, practicing at church every Sunday morning, rain or shine, they were there. Um, as an athlete, in the meantime, I kind of developed this in between, I would say, when yes, you put in the work, you're very pragmatic, you practice, you prepare, just like you said earlier, scientists or an engineer like yourself. um, you prepare, you practice, but then there's a part of you, especially when you show up on a court, we're like, okay, now I have faith, I have done everything possible, I am now in the moment, I am still holding the vision for what I want to accomplish, but I'm present in every single moment, every single step, every single move, every single pass, every single shot. I'm present. But it wasn't until years later than um, when I was overcoming postpartum depression and severe burnout that I really started to question things differently. I was here in the States by the time, um, and I was offered a very typical, Western approach to depression. Here are the pills.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I respect science. I have huge admiration for medicine. I know it has its role. It just was not for me at the time. And I know my doctor she was not happy. She's like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I have faith that if I change my lifestyle, if I start working on myself, not just from a diet standpoint, not just exercising, but also nourishing my mind and my soul, I can turn things around. So that's when I really started to look into spirituality from a different angle and faith from not necessarily this, um, I would say, dogmatic approach that this is something external that you're holding on to or that you're fearing something that's external and you have to play by the rules, um, but rather what's already inside of me, what's emerging through me, what kind of light is shining that I'm allowing it to be amplified. Um, and just this grounding feeling that no matter what's going on, no matter the tornadoes, no matter the storms, when that I am the eye of the storm, I'm the centered, I'm the grounded one. I can't control anything beyond that. So that has really helped me even in the pandemic. Like I haven't seen my family in 2 years. They're all overseas. I have my kids and my husband here. But there's still a sense, when I say family, um, yeah, we're here and we're there. But just having this, again, this faith, we are in a moment, have to
Yeah.
trust it's going to unfold exactly how it's meant to, that we all are here on purpose and mission, and we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And if somebody's time comes, we'll just have to celebrate and honor that. And I know it can sound very insensitive, but it was again just trusting the process and every single day waking up and knowing it's going to be okay. However it turns out, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the sports, I would say, uh, is one way of, you know, being in that faith state, that calm, centered state. The other is art. You know, as an
Yeah.
artist, when you basically have to let yourself go, in the sense that the feedback loops and critics and the analytical mind that is commenting on everything that you do. If you have that, you will miss that shot when you're playing something, or your brush strokes won't be spontaneous. So I think that part needs to calm down. I
Yeah.
think that's the once you have it, then actually things start flowing naturally.
I would be curious. You have a degree and background in engineering, which by definition it's very controlled, very pragmatic, very orchestrated. What was your journey from that era of life or that identity of yours to then evolve to a place where now we can talk about, what, I'm just going to let it come through and this brush of stroke is going to be spontaneous and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think you have to go to extreme to kind of like not exactly a burnout, but you have to test the extremes to actually start appreciating the middle, like the pendulum kind of,
Yeah.
you know, goes back and forth. And I somehow have really affinity to the both sides. I do like organization, I do like structure, I like to it's a way of, it's a way of creating art as well. You engineering in a way is a art if you do it right. That is one part of it. So it never, it didn't seem to be, it didn't seem to me like it's totally opposite of art or being that like in flow state. uh, it is how we are trained to approach engineering versus art is the problem in this society. So for example, I would say, let's take an example of Apple and Steve Jobs. uh, he was very of course very very businessman, very structured and organized person, right? But he considered himself an artist,
Hmm.
and you can see it in the products. He was really concerned about how it looks, how it feels, how it should uh, you know uh, behave in a very artistic way, and the products are work of art
Yeah.
for this era. I would say if when in historians come back and look at it and look at, like, you can go back into Renaissance and you can see those paintings, you can go back to a little further and you can see beautiful temples in India and China, and then go back further, you see pyramids. So there is always that big artifact art of that particular era. And for us right now, it is these electronics actually. That is the kind of work
Yeah.
of art. If you see these little tiny pieces, putting together and working so brilliantly to create this experiences, it's amazing. It's work of art. But the problem is in our society, the way science and engineering is taught versus the art. Where art, you
Mhm.
typically go, okay, trust your heart, do what you need to do, and all that sort of things. Versus science is considered, oh, now you have to memorize this, you have to be this and that. But I think both approaches are extreme in teaching them. I think science should be taught like an art subject, and art should be taught like a science subject, and that helps. Because
That itself is a title.
yeah, it's like I do watercolor painting, so it's very interesting, I'll tell you. So I switched from oils recently, and in my technical career, I was working in a Agilent Technologies with where I wrote software for liquid chromatograms, gas chromatogram systems. So liquid chromatogram is where you take a substance in a liquid and you separate, and you see the what is the separation. Now, when I was doing watercolors, I could see that some of my blues or green, for example, the combination colors, when I put it in a water in a certain way, they separate. They get into yellow and blue. The green separates, and I said, look, that's science,
Yeah.
right? And if you teach art students, and I believe there's some universities do that. Uh, how the pigments are made, what is the science behind it, how will they separate, how to use them, how to use these art materials so that you get your expression right. It's science, and I think the art should be taught like science in that sense. So that balance need to be there. I think that's what I feel, and that's what I could do, because I looked at both sides, and I always learn about the other when I'm doing this. So I learn about science when I'm doing art. When I'm doing much more structured programming, I learn about art. It's feeds it on each other.
It's I mean, in a way, it's also definition of coaching. You observe and then you correlate, right? You
Yeah.
bridge the gap. Now this is fascinating because it's not new. It's been emerging for the past 50 years. But I do believe that with the advancement of technology and ability for us to now really be connected, like you and I wouldn't even meet if it wasn't for technology, uh,
Yeah.
much less have this conversation. Um, that we are emerging from the past 2000s of so years of what it's called Piscean age, when everything was hierarchical, when everything was like, these are the rules, you have to contort to the rules, you have to follow those rules, and your identity will be compartmentalized and you have to fit the labels. I do believe we're now emerging into the space where everything is much more fluid, this Aquarian age. And not just in art or science, but yeah, they're now working together. And not just, okay, I have analytical mind and I have, creative minds, but now we are more free to fully express all the shades of us, all
Yeah.
aspects of us. And I do feel that even the new generation, like generation of you and I, we're still kind of like teeter tottering, like, do I still go back to the old old rules? Do I give myself the freedom to play in a new way? I think the new generation, like you and I both have daughters. It's a whole different human.
Yeah, that is true. Absolutely. And a whole different human with a totally different perspective, opportunities that none of us ever imagined,
Yeah.
and future that we can't really fathom right now. So yeah, it's very exciting. And I have of course, as a parents, we should not restrict them out of protection. I mean, everyone struggles with that in the times like we want to keep them into the known territory,
Yeah.
our known territory, to keep them safe, but maybe that may not be the safe environment for them.
Yes.
So, but other than that, yeah, I'm looking forward. The Gen Zs, I'm looking forward to Gen Z, grow up and change the world.
It's gonna be fun. It already is fun.
Yeah,
So let's talk about that a little bit more, because the work that you are doing deeply taps into this um, new approach. You work with women who are ready to break their own glass ceilings, who are ready to emerge from what the society used to tell them, this is who you're supposed to be and this is how you're supposed to live, to finding themselves. What are you encountering? What are some of the what would you say that are some of the most profound experiences that they have been through to finally say, you know what, I deserve more, I am more, I can do this, I want to do this, I need to do this?
yeah, yeah. I think the profound experiences is this, I think what happens is that, and men and women, and especially women, but applies to men also. We are born and we are born into a society, and then we adopt the rules of the society. And I mean, there are some rebels, but even our rebellion, goes down in our teenagers, and we adopt what is expected to be a man or what is expected to be a woman in the society that we were raised. So we take the all the expectations, and women take the expectation that, typically at this time I need to be this kind of superwoman, where nobody will call me superwoman, but I need to look good, I need to raise the family, I need to cook perfectly, I need to have a great career, I need to dress up and go partying and all of that. And then I have some kind of significance, and then of course I shouldn't say this, because if I say this, I will be perceived as bossy or too aggressive, so then they curtail themselves. So then there is this kind of a box that we try to fit ourselves in.
Yeah.
And then there is this idea planted in us that if you somehow can fit in that box, then you will get that goody, and that goody is typically an approval that you are seeking, the love, the success, and all of that. But I think what happens as you progress through life and you really genuinely and sincerely try to fit in that mold, there comes a point where you start realizing, wait, something is really wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I have been a good person. I did everything. I did all of these things, and there are still, I nobody really cares about me. Nobody is really looking after my interest. Although as a promise of society was, you do this, your interest will be covered. No, I don't see that. I think as people and women come to that point, they are ready to finally get that breakthrough,
Hmm.
and then define their own rules,
Yeah.
define their they want to then start living life on their own terms. And that is the shift that we see, and which is a good shift. But people come to that point at different stages in their life.
Yeah.
Some come in their 30s, some come in their 40s, some after after they are empty nesters, or some life changing event happens and they are shooken out of that box. So that's what I see. What about you? What have you seen in that similar area?
Very similar to what you just described, and typically there being some life-changing event.
Mm.
And perhaps it's not even traumatic life-changing event. It could be simply as a birth of a child.
Yeah.
Birth of my own daughters really not necessarily forced me, but inspired me
Yeah.
to look at things differently and like, well, just because it was so when I was growing up, just because those were the rules and expectations, is it really on me to dictate or to project my experiences or fears or whatever is that I am burdened with and I'm still working through onto them?
Yeah,
I
that
know
is,
that
yeah.
is a huge kind of a conversation also within the family, like, oh, how can you let them do this, how can you let them do that? It's their own experiences that are creating. I'm simply here to keep them safe, and even conversation of safety. you know um, so yeah, in some ways, even with clients, some of them had this awakening when they were literally squeezed in a corner, life grabbed them by the throat, pulled the rug from underneath them. But more and more, I'm noticing also the other side of those clients who understand and who are aware that, you know what, I don't have to sink to the bottom to make this change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm taking control right now because, you know what, things are so good and I just want them to be even better.
Yes.
And I also think that that comes from just the shift in the narrative that,
Yes.
yeah, you know what, it's good and you deserve to have it even better. And you can give yourself permission to ask, how can I get this even better? How can it be even better? And you're not going to be greedy. You're not going to be labeled whatever disempowering, um, in disempowering way or condescending way. But yeah, you know what? Now we are standing on shoulders of so many generations who have fought and sacrificed
Oh, yeah.
to bring us to this point. That I also want to make sure that we honor them and understand this whole journey, which, if we go into this conversation, the whole socio-political shifts that are happening too. It's like you have to understand where you came from. You have to understand what happened in the past. You have to be willing to look at the dark sides just as much as the bright side. And you have to be willing to look way beyond the borders on a global scale.
Yes,
Because what's
absolutely.
happening here does not end just because there's a line on on the ground saying, "Well, this is not a different country here."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And that also, that line is on the paper, not on the ground.
exactly. But having this understanding and having the backing of generations, literally thousands of people, legacy of those thousands of people that you are now here because of them. It just gives you this sense of empowerment and inspiration almost to be like, you know what? I'm not here to waste space. I'm not here to waste time. I'm here on purpose and I'm going to live this purpose. It might have taken me hundreds of lifetimes to get to this point, but I'm going to do it.
Yes, I think that I see that too. It's this, we always have it. I mean, it's this kind of fulfillment of what we came here for, in the sense that expressing what we are capable of expressing,
Yeah.
uh, creating after you have a good life. That is the kind of the actualization need. It's very strong,
Mhm.
and it is a tricky one to fulfill, because sometimes you have to let go of all your comforts that you took years
Yeah.
creating, to take the unbeaten path and towards your actualization. This
Yeah.
is scary. I think people are gripped with fear when they consider this, though they long for that kind of freedom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's scary, and I would also say it's lonely because being a person who is a visionary, being a trailblazer, being somebody who is pulled by the vision as opposed to pushed by pain, to quote Dr. Michael Beckwith, um, it's lonely. You are also labeled as crazy.
Yeah.
You are told, oh, you're too much. Tone down. You're too much. You're too loud. You're dreaming too big. You're going too ahead of yourself. Um, but it takes incredible amount of courage to do so,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put yourself out there and to blaze a trail, not so that the masses can eventually follow. That's a byproduct. I think it really comes down to this fulfillment that you mentioned, and a lot of people that I think, um, I I think I know because I have been there as well. When you check all of the boxes and
Yeah.
you create everything that there is, and like, this is boring.
Yeah.
This is it, really? Come on. But this challenge, the rub of being challenged every day, the rub of being in frustration because there's so much more that you're not fulfilling and seeking for it, I think that brings this excitement to the life.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, there needs to be a little bit adventure. You know, you have to, otherwise it. And I think maybe it's, I don't know, just as a fun thing that I imagine, why is it like that? I think as a human beings, if you see like the people that in past thousands and thousands of millions of our ancestors, how was their life? I would say their life was quite full of excitement, in the sense, not probably not in a good way, but running away from a tiger, fighting a famine. It's probably one thing after the other, and probably we are genetically wired to get sense of um, some kind of an adventure, some kind of a fear, some kind of a living on the edge sensation, to feel that fulfillment, because probably I mean, millions of our generations, probably just in last 100 or 200 years, things are kind of getting stabilized, where we have vaccines and people are not dying that often. And that's a very different world now we are living in, but our genes are still the genes of hunter gatherers. And
Yes.
so we need a little bit adventure, otherwise we don't feel content.
So let's talk about that, because it's so many questions come to mind, because you and I both are we are assimilating into a different culture. We came from a space that has a different non-Western folklore, and the mindset
Yeah.
and the way of living, norms, standards, ethics. So my question is to you, simply because it's another thing on my own journey that I have been really deeply in epigenetics, and how much of it is passed down and how much is by our own design and by choosing to change, that just because it's ingrained in my DNA doesn't mean that I have to live it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I know from my own culture, looking back from a distance, one of the major things is the victim mentality almost,
Mm.
and a mentality that I can't advance myself because they're gonna cut me down, they're gonna shun
Mm.
me, they're gonna shame me if I'm too successful.
Mm.
I can't celebrate my victories because of that.
Mm.
And it's not worth even going there because it's going to be taken away,
Mm.
or because I'm here to play by the rules that, through centuries, my country persevered, the people of my nation, they persevered, but they were always ruled by somebody else.
I
You know?
see.
So I look at it now as like, wow, it is this aggression, microaggression is so deeply present. They would not say it out loud, but it's this bickering, and it's even, um, I actually never spoke about it before. Um, there are even jokes about how, just because our neighbor is successful and has two cows, the other neighbor, instead of trying to get two cows for themselves, they wish that the neighbor's cows would die.
Uh,
That kind of mentality, right?
I see.
Um,
Yeah.
so I know coming here to the States, it was a whole 180. Not saying
Yeah.
there's no bickering, that there's no competitiveness, that there's no victim mentalities here, but I was like, okay, what can I take that serves me, and what are things that are pulling me back? What are the things that I admire here and I want to introduce to my own way of being? And
Yes.
what are the things that, that's not for me? And then just recalibrating and choosing on a different level. So I'm curious, coming from India and having your own set of rules, so to speak. How has that affected you? What are you keeping? What are you preserving? What are you passing on to your daughter? And where do you draw the line?
Yeah, nice. And I loved the way you explained your journey. That was so beautiful. I could really feel your, Slovenia and how that transition would be. And yeah, you're right. There is this, I would say there is that emotional energy, kind of signature energy of a particular culture or a
Yeah.
country. And it develops over years of that history and just the, dynamics there. And in India, I would say uh, the prevalent is interestingly strong emotionality. And if you look at the emotional drama, like, if you watch the TV, it's extremely emotional. Like, it's like, like the food there, like all the spices in the
Yes.
food or the colors in the
Yes.
clothes, their emotions are also extremely colorful, very, very bright, bold, deeply felt. So you feel everything, you feel anger, you feel sadness, you feel guilt, you make others feel guilty, you expect things, you do this, that, this. And with the family structure, in the being very multi-generational, and there is all that drama that is built in, the emotional drama. And then you come to US and you feel like there was this radio that was turned off. I mean, I literally felt like that. It's like, it's so calm here. I can't. I mean, it's not just the audio has been reduced, because that's also the case, because India is quite vibrant with birds chirping, the vehicles and all that. But the emotional volume also is toned down. People are more um they're structured in their emotionality, they are more controlled, they have all these emotions, not that they don't have it, but the way they cultivate that or express that, it's more of a, you know uh like the colors that are here, right? Black, beige, white, stay in that palette.
Yeah.
Don't go red and magenta and yellow.
Yeah.
Emotionally also. So
Kind of
so
a surface scratching, just, just barely to survive, but we're not going to go into the extremes. We're not going to.
yeah. We just have that survival, just a little bit, have fun a little bit, then come back, maybe feel a little bit melancholy or something, but don't go into, big. So, I mean, of course, there is depression here, but that's, I think maybe part of it is not having that vibrant emotional life also, causes that. So I think what I decided to keep is that range of emotions I can feel that
Mhm.
India gave me.
Yeah.
Uh, but I chose the a little bit control on, how much and when
Yeah.
and with where and with whom,
Yes.
from the Western culture. And I think that's a really nice uh, combination, to have, because it enriches your life. It's a little bit colorful, more rich life, emotionally, and but it's not going to drive you crazy and get into where you are totally being run by your emotions, that you cannot step out. So that is, what do you think about it? Does that answer your question?
I love it. I love it. I love the parallel between the range of emotions and the boldness of the color, because that, I admit I have never been to India. It definitely is a place that I would love to visit with my daughters. Um, but from, looking from the outside in, we are also taught that it's a country of extreme opposites. um, Extreme poverty and extreme riches and everything in between, and then the range of emotions you're describing, the boldness of the colors and the spices. um, it just beautifully illustrated that.
Yeah, it is a it's a, if you crave variety, India has all sorts of variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, in every dimension. Yeah. But then also you can get lost in it, and then you need to find your calm. And of course, India has all this spiritual practices, but that also comes with a huge amount of you have to find your right practice
Of
anywhere you
course.
go. But India has lots of options, but not all of them are good. Actually, very few of them are, you know stayed pure.
Yeah, that was my next question. Eat, Pray, Love, I think, was one of the books that really opened the doors of curiosity and perhaps even invited masses of tourists, just because now they're all curious about the temples and the spiritual experience. But for somebody who's been practicing it, I know in the 50s and 60s, the first yogis came to the States and really openly started to teach, and they were um, so yogic practice and meditation is not something that new. But I do believe in some ways it has been really watered down to fit this narrow safe zone of colors as you mentioned earlier. uh,
Yes.
but I'm noticing with my daughters, like they're in their school right now, they start classes with mindfulness, they start with meditation, and I was like, oh, this is so awesome. So w- what's the question is trying to emerge here? The spiritual practices that have evolved, and obviously in India there's like thousands of years that went into it, so much unwritten even, and literally just passed down.
Yeah.
uh, what's the word? Verbally passed down.
Yeah, orally,
Or
verbally.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then some written text, but yes.
um, what are your what are some of your practices that you share, not just for yourself but maybe with your family, that you're helping your clients with, and that you hope that get adopted or being better understood maybe in moving forward to really create a world that we're discussing beforehand, um, that is going to persevere? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned 11th hour of humanity. What are we going to do? What choices are we going to make? Are we staying? Are we going to be wiped out?
Yeah, we'll have to see that. But yeah, the spirituality, like, you are right in the sense that, here, as I see the yoga and meditation, it is in that band where Westerners are comfortable in. um, I wouldn't say that that's bad, because whatever works, whatever eases your pain, whatever
Mhm.
helps you, it's good. Even if it is not the full range, so what? You can choose what makes you better. Now, but then once you come to the edges of that comfort zone, and then you want to go beyond, when you want to have breakthrough, then you want to see what lies beyond, and that's where you have to be adventurous to go and leave your comfortable range. And that's what's many of folks in West I have seen that they want to do, which is all good. I think that I would say, and this is not just for Western society, I think it's global right now, is escapism.
Mhm.
uh, we are so tired with our lives, or exhausted, or frustrated, that we seek some kind of escapes
Yeah.
from that. And that escapes are sometimes just watching television and going on Netflix binge watching,
Yeah.
or going on, keep on working, or going on trips, or eating. These are all symptoms of that escape, trying to find that escape. um, Unfortunately, spirituality, if it is stays in that band, also becomes a way of escaping,
Yeah.
getting a temporary relief
Yeah.
from uh, the worrisome emotion, worrisome thoughts, or bothersome thoughts. uh, Temporary relief. So you repress it. It's like taking a Tylenol every day, Advil every day, and you feel a little bit better, but you are not truly going to the root and actually doing anything about it. So I think that with spirituality, it's kind of getting adopted as an escape.
Yeah.
And that's not just West. I would say that I have seen that even in East. And there, where people will say, I don't feel any emotions, I don't you know feel any pain, kind of like become the goal of meditation or spirituality is not being numb.
Yeah.
It is it is being as sensitive as you can, and still being able to handle it, if not enjoy it.
Yes.
And I think that is, so hard to capture in one practice. There are many practices which you can use to numb yourself down,
Mhm.
but this practice of alive, making yourself more and more alive, it
Yeah.
is almost a choice that person has to make.
Mhm.
It's again a courageous choice. And if the person is ready to make that choice, the teacher appears in different form.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And if you have time, we can continue this conversation. I know it's almost been an hour. It went by super
Sure,
fast.
sure. I think I have a call just after 9, but we have 5 minutes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yeah, yeah.
No, I love the conversation around this disconnect, not just numbing ourselves and trying to escape, but also having this deep disconnect. We're also not even aware that it exists,
Yeah,
first
yeah.
and foremost. And then the conversation around um, there goes the 5 minutes of me thinking what was the word that was trying to come through. um, not feeling the void, not, oh yes, the fact that just in culture, and I think that is starting to change too. For quite some time it's been this chasing of happiness, that happiness is the ultimate goal and everything else needs to be shushed aside because
Yeah,
I need to be happy.
yeah,
Totally discounting that mastery really comes in a form where you can feel the range of emotions and you honor them and you're not consumed by them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the trick for that is looking at emotions as not what you're feeling or what is happening to you or who you are, but like an object in this universe. So you are passing by, you're driving or you're walking and you see a ball, and oh, it's a ball, and you see this, that, and the other, and you register that's that what it is. Just like that, if you do it in your inner world, where you say, oh, look, the sadness is coming up. When you see a ball, you're not a what ball, not allowed in my garden. I'm gonna throw it all away. You don't do that. It's like, okay, there is a sadness, let me sit with this a little bit. Or there is a little bit of anger. It's acknowledging, saying that, yeah, I see an anger, it's not who I am. It's there, I'm not pushing it away.
Yeah.
I'm letting it unfold, and see how it is, so that it doesn't get repressed and then lodged, because whatever you repress, it doesn't dissolve. You're just collecting junk, uh, you know
Yeah.
that you didn't like. That's how exactly it is. You're collecting junk that you don't like and put it in this big basement of yours, and that's not fun way to live.
Yeah.
So I think that switch is something that 11th hour of humanity will have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the inner. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I think outer, the cleanup, global cleanup probably will be. It's very easy to see the pollution outside, and that we want to take care of it, but it's very hard to see the pollution inside.
Yeah. I,
And but we'll have to come to that, and we'll do it, because I think there is a there is that spark in us. It's been there for thousands and thousands of years, and it blossomed with some of those really great people that we hear about. uh, but that is a potentiality for all of us. So I don't know when it will happen, but I'm hopeful that that's going to happen. Then we are going to live in a very different reality. So
yes.
that's my hope.
And that we're gonna wrap up this conversation. Maithilee, thank you so much for this amazing hour. We gotta continue this conversation because there's still so much that we get to.
Yeah, I loved that. Yeah, this was a great conversation, and I loved your idea of not having any agenda for it and let it flow. And so we didn't know what we were going to talk about, but it turned out to be a really good one. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you. For anybody who wants to connect with you, where are the best ways to find you?
Mirrormymind.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Greetings to California. Talk to you soon.